Thanks for coming. 8 a.m. on the second day is always just like slightly less exciting because probably had to make some plans. You still had to come in here. But thank you very much for choosing this one. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. Unless your expectations are really low, then you'll be very surprised. My name is Kenton Engels, and I'm the instructional technology coach at Cedar Falls High School. Our building is 10 through 12, and we have about 1,100 students. And go ahead and introduce yourself.
I'm Jen Paulson, and I am the instructional technology coach at Holmes Junior High in Cedar Falls.
Yeah, and we're in the second year of the TLC grant, and before that I taught for several years as a social studies teacher at a junior high. And
I taught English.
Yes, English.
5th through 12th.
Yeah.
23 years.
And so what are, actually, I think we can go to the next one. I'll tell you, just like any good lesson, these are our intended outcomes for today. You're going to learn what is an expedition, but don't think that this is like a tutorial about what they are. That's just a very brief part of it. We're going to talk about the general setup that we have, maybe how to get your hands on some of them, and then the real part is we're going to have instructional strategies and how to use them. Because at one level they're very cool. I'm sure you've all seen those Samsung commercials where people are crying after putting on the VR. I remember my wife saw that commercial and she's like, and she knows that I handled these. She's like, is it really that powerful that like people are crying? No, I've never really had anybody look at an image and have people cry. But it is very exciting, and we're going to show you how to make them more than just a cool toy that we have. Yeah, so what I want to tell you about is how we set ours up. If you notice up here, we have these two large cases, and we have 30 of them. What's in here is the Viewmaster. This is the same company that made the ones in the 80s. I'll let you guess how old I am. But I do know what a Viewmaster is. Then on the inside, we bought iPods that go with them. This is just your standard iPod. These also hold other devices too, so it's not like it's specific to the Apple world. These could hold phones. We actually demoed several viewfinders. There's lots of companies that make these now. This one fit the iPod the best. They slide in here with the prongs really easily. And then to charge them, it's really easy as well. So that's why we chose these. And then once you have them plugged in here, or not plugged in, once you have them set in here and turned on, then you can use them like this. The other part that we have is they have to all be on the same network. So we purchased a router, and that network doesn't have to go out to the internet, but it does have to connect all the devices locally. And so all of them are on the same network, and we found that when we put them on our school network, we were dropping some of the iPods, and it was creating some of the problems. So we got our own dedicated router that we were plugged in. So yeah, and that's a good picture of how we, of these cases right here. You can see we have them packed in there, and the charging is on the right.
Yes.
What?
Is it a gun case?
I mean, some people have used it for a gun, yeah.
Not these particular ones though. But yes, they're rifle cases from Shields.
Okay.
And they had, because we share these two, well, this is one set. We have two sets. We bought a second set. We share them in the district. They have to be able to go to multiple schools. So these get beaten around quite a bit.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. Yeah, we have 9 buildings between the elementaries and the secondaries. So because of that, yeah, we carry them around.
And by about, January, we realized that you wouldn't be able to schedule them till May. We bought a second set, so they were getting a lot of use. They are custom. Brian and Haley cut all the foam out so that everything has a place, which is nice. So this is what an expedition script looks like. If you pull it up on the iPad, the field trip to Argentina is one that my Spanish teacher does, and it's Las Cataratas del Iguazu in Peru, and in Argentina, and then on the other side is Peru. So we also do one for Machu Picchu. So we only do one panorama. Most of the panoramas, they're 360-degree photos. When kids get these, they start walking, and it's not filmed, so it's not going to make anything happen if they walk, but they need to turn in a circle. But I always tell them to stay away from the wall, because I hit the wall once while I was playing around. It's just one panorama from 2 expeditions. But there were like 5 or 10 pictures in each one. So you don't have to look at every single picture that they give you. But there are panoramas, and then there's like a background information. There are questions to help focus. And then there are these little compass points that will give the kids, if you click on it, this is the teacher view. If you click on it, it will give the kids an arrow so they know to look closer at a certain spot. And then sometimes there are pop-up pics that when they click on this, a picture or a video will pop up in that space. So this is just kind of what it looks like. You can see that's a lot of material. And after doing it for, like there was a Civil War one that had 12 different panoramas, the kids get tired if the teacher's talking the whole time and reading the script word for word. And so we started working on ways to get the kids more involved and break up the talking and make the kids, be the ones doing more of the learning.
Yeah. And I was going to add, having that script is kind of a double-edged sword, especially when in this coaching role, because what started to end up happening is people would check these out, and it became, the coach is just going to handle my classroom for the day. They're going to take them on this tour. And they knew that everything was prepared on the script beforehand, the one that they provide. See, what has happened is a lot of textbook companies have built these, which I think is pretty smart. But because of that, they have just put in all their information. And sometimes, it doesn't fit to exactly what you're teaching. And like I said, we kind of struggle to pass this along as a coach. You want them to be able to, teachers to be able to use it in their classroom and kind of mold it how they want, not and have us teach for the day. And so that's really where the inspiration for this came from, because we wanted to not only have the equipment here, but also the tools to give one of these expeditions. And hopefully that's what you guys will walk away. So not only have you seen them and messed with them, but also you can take them, tomorrow if you have the ability and use them. So that's where we're headed.
So you can use them as a writing prompt. Luke and Joe used this with young classrooms. So this is a video. They have seen Santa land.
They were going on a trip this was first grade. They were going on a trip to the North Pole. It was right around Christmas. So you can imagine the excitement of 6-year-olds around Christmas and seeing Santa.
And it was just one panorama, wasn't it?
Well, we only got through like 4 because there was a lot of screaming.
Yeah. And then you had a writing prompt after.
Yep.
So, first grade. That was pretty fun to see, and it happened often. There we go. So one of the things I did is I like to work with visual strategies, and so I did one. I did a substitute for my social studies teacher. He was going to be gone to Washington D.C. for a week, and he's like, "Can you?" Then I wouldn't have to write sub plans for 2 days. So he's a good guy. So I said I would do this while he was gone. But he's learned how to do it now himself. I had them draw from the Statue of Liberty. We did Statue of Liberty in Ellis Island. The symbols and pick out their research and the quotes from the poem. So I found on tests, the test site has a bunch of Google lesson plans. And from there, there was one on art, public art, and there was also one on the poem, the Colossus, the New Colossus. And so I kind of took a little bit from each of those and made my own project, but I had them draw their understanding afterward and provided the script for them to go back and research. And it was really, this is what one of the kids came up with. So I thought that it was really pretty, they did a good job. But we did a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 assignment where it was 5 symbols, 4 quotes from the poem, 3 quotes from their research, 2 things they learned, and then 1 word that wasn't liberty, independence, freedom, or enlightenment. That it meant, yeah.
And to get a little bit more as the purpose of this, we talk about the 4 C's. When you just watch these, well, first of all, we do get those reactions from the secondary kids too, although you know how they are. They don't think it's as cool to scream in front of their friends. But they are very willing to be consumers of this, but just consuming the images is really where we saw the gap between learning and just sort of experiencing this. And so that's why we put in some of these as a writing prompt, which is great for all English classes, because that really opens it up. They have career expeditions on their platform now, where you can check out day in the life of certain jobs. They have college campuses on there as well. And so really now English classes have used as a writing prompt, and really any other class. There's a great one about, I shouldn't have prefaced it like that. There is one about giving birth, and for a health class, that's super uncomfortable to give in front. Maybe some of your health teachers, and you're like, no problem. For me, it was uncomfortable. But again, I couldn't think of a better introductory to a lesson than to see, well, it was a digital rendering. Maybe we should do that. Probably not. It's early. It's early. So yeah, all right, go ahead, Jen.
You can also use images for front loading or extension, like with the poem The Colossus. It was important for them to understand with the new Colossus that it was a more feminine, motherly figure, that was the intention in opposition to the old Colossus in Rhodes, which actually did not spread across, the entryway, but it is in all the paintings of that time. It probably would not have been able to sustain that size, but it gives them some background to look at. You can also read aloud from a poem or a picture book. I just found that Dave Eggers wrote a picture book about Lady Liberty's right foot. And this was something I didn't know about the Statue of Liberty before I did this, is that her feet they're broken chains. They're when France gave, that was part of the symbolism, was that the foot was striding, had broken the chains of slavery. So I thought that was an interesting symbol that most people don't see because you have to be able to look at it from above. And then most people think this poem is on the outside of the Statue of Liberty, but it's inside. Written by Emma Lazarus, raise money for it. Give me your time, your poor. But the kids really enjoyed, kind of digging into that too. With Sarah's, my Spanish teacher, the field trip to Argentina, the Las Cataratas del Iguazu, this is cataract, waterfall. She got them sensory, because most of what she says they don't understand because it's their first year of Spanish and it's immersion. So my son has no clue what's going on in there right now, but that's okay. She knows that. So she connects them with a sensory image first. So while they were looking at the image, they were listening to the waterfall to kind of get into, the space of what they were hearing, and to help them, access their vocabulary through sensory imaging. And then she created a discussion prompt for them to talk about the vocabulary. They looked at both sides of the border, and then she had them talk about which one did you like best. But these are her little notes, and then she had a reflection. Why did you like that one the best? But they tried to practice their vocabulary words that they had in front of them. to talk about. So you can limit it, and you can have them talk instead of having you talk.
And I was going to tag along with that last one. One great strategy is to have students write questions, especially if it's at the beginning, and then they can either go out and that can be like their research for that particular project, for that unit. So that's a great one too. This one is kind of outsourcing. This is a really good strategy. You don't have to use it just with these. But you put, you get your paper out like this, you make it into 4 sections. In the middle you put the theme or the topic idea. So in this case it would be the Statue of Liberty, which you guys will all be experiencing here shortly. And then in each section you give it to one person. That person writes their name, and then they write what item they think is important, something they gained from this particular expedition, and then 2 questions. And then after a little bit of preset time, they pass it to the next person. And so you have 4 different classmates' ideas and questions on there. And then hopefully by the time they get it back, you have either learned the answers to those questions, or you know what to ask your teacher, or you know what to study and be prepared for. I mean, that's the goal. So this one works really well because, especially with the secondary students, I think, because like I said, they're all too willing to consume what's in front of them and not really create or think about it. And as I just said, asking questions is really the best way to get engaged with the content. And so this one, they get to crowdsource their friends, which I really think is interesting because then after they do it once, they realize that maybe their buddy isn't the best person to like give the sheet to because they might not be as invested. So they really like kind of work together. I think it does create a little efficacy. Did I use that word right? Okay.
Yes, you did.
Okay.
Good job.
Mr. John Hadley. All right. The other one is a learning map. And this comes from Jim Knight, and I use this using Lucidchart. I don't know if you've ever used Lucidchart before, but it's really a great program because it exports to Drive seamlessly. Now, if it's free, if you have the free version, I think you only get 5 maps. And so I've just gone to recreating and wiping them clean. That's not great, but I do think it is a really good product. But for this strategy, what you do is you put the topic idea, or what would be better is the big question. I know that, I think it was either Jen or my colleague Hillary here did one on trench warfare, and a good big question for that is, you know, how did soldiers live and work day to day during World War I? So then you have the bubbles down below it, and you have students fill those in. So you have the big question or the big topic, and then students put together the learning map, and really what they've just done is create the review guide for that particular section. You no longer have to make it yourself. You don't have to type out the questions. Because of this, they have made it on their own. I guess there could be some room for error, but it really is a great thing when you hand them a graphic organizer like this. You give them this experience, they start to put it together rather than if you just said, these are the answers, make sure you get them on your study guide or your notes or whatever. So yeah, those are those ones.
I've also done that with, the one on clouds is really, really strong, but I felt like, as I kept turning to the science teacher, I'm like, I feel like I need to write something down. And so we're working on creating a graphic organizer and learning map for that one, because it's so much information at once, but it's a great way for them to learn it and interact with the material. So what we'd like to do is have you experience an off-script expedition. The Statue of Liberty, I felt like, was something that pretty much everyone can get on board with. So we will pass our things out. Kenton, do you want to go through do you have a routine for the kids?
Camera right in my face. Can I ask you a quick question? If you're the leader, are you pointing them to the places you want them to see?
Yeah,
Do they all move to that point at the same time, or they control where
they control where.
All right.
They control where they look.
Who needs one?
They can-
Yes, you need one.
They control where they are, but there's a smiley face that.
You don't want to be left out.
Although I tell them I can see their face.
Here you go.
So like,
Here you go.
Like, they're lit.
then you'll
Yeah.
see all
Yeah.
of the basics and the explanation goes look for stuff. Yeah. You can't tell who is looking and who is not, but you can at least see sort of the general flow.
Okay, so here's how you do it, and this is how I walk the students through it, just so you get an idea of how simple it is, although at first it's foreign. So on top there's a clasp. What you do is you push the two sides together and you pull up on the clasp to open the viewfinder. Don't worry, it's not going to come flying out.
Push the white back and pull up on the red.
Yes.
And then once you have it open, make sure your iPod is on. Most of them should be. All of them should be. And once you do that, you have to find the Expeditions app. The Expeditions app's on the second page of the iPod. If yours dies, let Hillary know. She'll replace it for you. Anyways, then you're going to go to the Expeditions app. You're going to press open it up. You're going to accept the terms, and then my name is Kenton, and you're going to join my expedition. What it does is it reads the gyroscope in the iPod, so when you shut it, it will actually snap to the VR image. However, if it's misaligned, you need to make sure that it's aligned with that white stripe that's on the bottom of the viewfinder and the white stripe that's on the iPod itself.
If you have a picture of
Now I
the
have a model.
iPod going in, just close it up a little bit and then it will turn to that image there.
Yeah, and so you see how the two white stripes are lined up? That way, your eyes won't fall on your head. Or puke or something silly. So, have any of you been to the Statue of Liberty? I have. I would love to go back. It was very rainy that day, I remember that. But you're going to get a chance, and we're going to walk you through some of the strategies that we showed you.
And you can stand if you need to, so you can
Yes.
stand all the way around.
Yes, you can stand, but do not walk. You won't get anywhere.
I'm not kidding, it might.
Ooh, the sun is very bright in this one.
So what I always tell kids is when I first click to a new panorama, I'm like, look around. I give them time to talk to their neighbor about what they're viewing. And then when I tell them, when I start with 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 by 1, I want to be able to instruct you so you're listening. And so that's how I help control the noise. And the last time I did this, they didn't talk to each other at all. They were like, as soon as I said 5, they were quiet by 4. They were so good. I couldn't believe it. But it was just using that. If you give them the chance to talk first, they won't talk through you, usually.
Yeah. And so I have some information on here, and so what I'm going to do is kind of try and give you a before and after. So if I was just delivering this, I would read off the screen in front of me. It says, the Statue of Liberty Enlightening the World was dedicated on Bedloe Island in New York Harbor on October 28, 1886. At the start of the statue's restoration in 1984, the Statue of Liberty was designated a World Heritage Site. And then it goes on, and you can see how that might get old after a little bit. So Jen has put up the first image here. And this is kind of what we said is if you get tired of looking at this, you can look up here. But also in the expeditions, I can use an arrow, and now you all are forced to look. Well, you're not forced to, but you have to look. You want to know where the arrow's pointing. And in this case, it's pointing to the tablet.
Right.
And can you show them on the iPad how it shows you all the faces? Because I had a question about that earlier.
So on here, I can't see names, but I see little smiley faces and where they're looking.
So you can see if someone's wandered.
So you can tell like who's looking over here and stuff.
And if you teach little kids, it's really good because you can just say, I can see if you're not looking, and they're like, oh, okay. And
Yeah, the junior high kids, I told them I could see their faces. I didn't tell them it was smiley
Yeah.
faces, and they believed me. So nobody has challenged me on it, and I kind of hope somebody has like the acumen to know they didn't sign in personally, so I shouldn't be able to see their faces, but they haven't figured that out yet. So, yeah. With this expedition, the teacher really wanted to focus on the symbolism, and what I discovered after I looked through is that even though it talks about the symbolism and it shows you like the tablet, you can't actually see the tablet, can you? No, it's not a close-up. And so I went through and found images to augment their learning. So they had a close-up up here of what it looked like, because they're gonna have to draw, they know in advance, they're gonna have to draw the 5 symbols that they discover. And so the tablet is keystone shaped, and they don't really know what a keystone is. So I have to explain that to them, that we know. See, they think that the poem is here sometimes. But the notch is what makes it a keystone, and it's got, you know, the 4th of July on there in Roman numerals. So this is a way that they can put it down, they can look at something else and then come back. They won't get as dizzy. Some kids get dizzy, and I just have them click out and follow on their iPod without the goggles. But this is the way a keystone supports an arch, liberty supports a free society. That's what this symbol means. And as an English teacher, I get to teach social studies symbols. That's really awesome for me, but the kids maybe not. So this gives them an idea of what the keystone looks like. When you go to the robe and the broken shackles, it goes to the armpit of the Statue of Liberty on the expedition. It doesn't actually show a close-up. But the robe is a stola, like the goddess Libertas, who was worshipped by freed slaves in ancient Rome. So the robe has meaning. And then there are broken chains around her ankles to show her forward stride, which represents the abolition of slavery in the United States. And so that was totally new to me, but I have up here 2 different views of the chains and the feet, so that they can see what it looks like. The pedestal, we don't get a real close view, but it gives them a chance to see that it was, it's the height of a 10-story building and was raised $100,000 is what it costs, raised by Joseph Pulitzer in 6 months. So the last thing actually there's 3 more. So this is a very dense and heavy panorama. Some of the others are not. The next one is Fort Wood. And this is what caught my attention. So they're going to pick something to research as well. And I was like, does the star-shaped fort mean something? What is a star-shaped fort? I had never heard of it before, because my idea of a fort is like the 4 square on the prairie. It's an 11-pointed star. And the fort was used by the military during the War of 1812. But it's, these are actually all over the world. It's an ancient form, so that the archers, and I'm an archer, so that was a really cool connection, can come way out on the point and be able to see but still be protected. So some kids, when they got to pick their wormhole to go down for research, and that was one of them. And then the torch doesn't, again, give you a close-up. We're still really far away. And so that's liberty and lightning. The world is the official name, so the flame symbolizes freedom. And it's made of copper and covered in 24-karat gold, but was replaced in 1986. And then the crown's rays. There are 7 rays on the crown. It's a sunburst spreading enlightenment and freedom throughout the world, and it can be seen as a radiant halo. So again, one more close-up for them so that they can kind of see what these symbols look like, so that they'll be able to remember them and draw later.
All right, so that's image number 1. Let's go to another one on here. Perfect. This is the baggage room at Ellis Island. Here's what I'd like you to do. You probably didn't bring paper to write on, but maybe you did. What I'd like you to do is get with a partner or someone next to you, or you can talk to one of these 3, and try. You can try out the 4 sections strategy, where come up with one thing that you think you should take away from this, or that you do take away, and then a couple questions that you have. And we'll try it with this one, and then we'll try with another image, just so you can get a feel for what that's like. So I'll give you a second.
Oh, yeah, the visitor center, so they're there.
Oh, my bad.
I don't think so. I mean, like, it's, I don't think this is. I just kind of see. That's I, or maybe.
All right, now I'm going to switch images on you again. And you can think about this one, what's something you take away, and a couple of questions you have. This is the dormitory room. 20% were required to stay overnight until their cases were cleared. So this is where they would stay. 14 rooms. And each room could accommodate about 300 people. Oh yeah.
This is the size that would hold 300 people. There's only. I mean, unless they were sleeping like.
I know. Like, look at those cats.
So they weren't allowed to leave. Or I guess this is on an island too. Right. But why?
Are you together in the same school?
I mean, if you're what are you doing? I just don't know.
Is there one that you want?
My father was. My grandfather did not. I don't think it's just the only generational.
So enough of the kids have done these that when I come in the room now, they ask me, so Mrs. Paulson, we're studying Jamestown. Is there a googly goggly thing that goes with Jamestown? Because I think we should use that as a way to, start our learning and get our schema going. So now the teachers feel like now they know. So I'm like, yeah, there is. We'll have to talk. But it's a really good way to get them around the world, to get them into historical places, and also in imaginary places. Kenton's going to show you.
Yeah, so I have two more examples I'm going to show you, and these are going to be very quick. The first one is the digital rendering. This is the human respiratory system. They also have other key organs in the body that you can take expeditions to. These are the lungs. And it has, as you turn around, it has the different perspectives of how the lungs look from the front and the sides and the back.
Can you make your own of these?
Great question. That power does not exist yet. But there is a spreadsheet with all of the possible ones out there.
Somebody doing, say, woodworking, and they talk about homemade furniture.
Yeah.
They take a picture and do a spinny, art picture, you can't do it yourself.
You could kind of fake that with
you
Google
could.
Earth if you found a.
Yeah, you could create the 360 image, but you couldn't load it into the Expedition app.
Okay.
Because they aren't accepting submissions from
Yes.
from most people, just from like big companies.
You can get a 360-degree camera though.
All right. Here's the smoke, the regular lungs and the smoking lungs.
You said there's a spreadsheet.
Yeah, there is.
At Google Expedition.
I'll make sure it's on our presentation
Yeah,
too.
I thought I put it on there, but I heard.
And then what we do is we hit Control F to search the spreadsheet.
Okay, cool. Okay.
Okay, then I'm going to show you just one more example real quick of some of these they've enhanced. This is a World War II one. So this is Pearl Harbor today, but then what you can do is, what it allows you to do is when you tap this, a picture comes up, kind of just appears there really. And the rest of the scenes are like this as well.
It'll zoom in on like it's new and then a movie loaded and show pop-ups or things for us explain.
All right, so what questions do you have about using Google Expedition in your classroom?
Is there a slideshow that you're following along with that we have to link to?
It's on the SCED. In the description, I put the Prezi link. And Kenton's adding some resources for us.
It didn't open the present.
It, it's not working, okay. If you go to the conference main page and then go to the resources, see if that link works. And if it doesn't, let me know. No, I sent it to them.
We'll get you the link, we'll put it in the resources, the conference resources page, we'll do that after this.
Yeah. And I'll go back to the description and make sure that I entered the Prezi link right. I bought my son one for Christmas at Target. Yeah, you can buy them at Target. You can get a $29 version. I got the $49 version because it had the ability to do sound.
Can the kids use their own phones in here, or is that too much? Because they don't have to be connected. And...
Yeah.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You can also order
anything like this, right?
Yeah, you can use Google Cardboard. Google Cardboard is pretty cheap.
There were plastic ones at Michael's craft stores for like $5, and they thought that was pretty good.
Yeah. I did talk to one teacher who couldn't afford the whole kit, and so he plugged his iPad. He plugged an iPad into the projector so that the students could see, like, they passed around the goggles so that everybody got a goggle experience, but they could see it up on the screen with his iPad.
Ken is going to show really quickly a spreadsheet
Yep.
that has all of the expeditions that are up to date.
The most recent one that I saw posted was about Puerto Rico. And they also had one on making West Side Story. So they show up in their most recent at the top.
Where did you find that spreadsheet? Is it on the page, the Google Expedition page?
This will be on our presentation when we get that on there. Also, I heard a rumor that's on the Grantwood website as well. But what you can do is you can use Control F and you can search for really whatever you want. So I know they have the University of Wisconsin on there.
Should have known.
Because what has happened is when you search the keywords in the Google Expedition app, sometimes it doesn't pick it up even though it's there. So you can look up the names of them right here. But if I scroll all the way down to the end, as of right now, what does it say? There's about 740 of them.
You can also download the app on your phone. Just download Google Expeditions, and then you can search within Google Expeditions on there and just type in keywords, and it'll also pull up relevant expeditions.
And you'll be able to explore the images before you present it to students.
And that's usually what I do for scripting, is I screenshot. The first time I tried to copy and paste and it wouldn't let me do that. So that I had the script so that I could like cut and paste and adapt. But the second time I realized I could just screenshot these and put it together. And so I put the screenshots on the left and then the plan on the right. So I know what's on the screen, and that helps teachers too. If they download it on their phone and they can look at it, or download it on their iPad, whatever they have. But that's, the scripting is pretty intense, and sometimes it teaches me what to focus on, but I don't have to say everything that's on the script. So I try to use it as a teaching tool for preparation more than the teaching tool to the kids, because it's not interactive. It just creates another passive lecture situation, only this time they get to use cool goggles. And so I'm trying to get teachers out of that mode and get kids more actively involved in their learning. Other questions that you have? Does anyone have Google Expeditions a set at their school already?
We just got a set of 15, and we got 15 iPods, and we got a router. We were just trying to look for a case, and we were just getting it with some phone and whatnot.
This does work well, you can check it out.
Yeah.
And a wheeled or a wheeled suitcase?
We were trying to, a wheeled suitcase, we never thought of that. We bought a wheeled plastic tub thing, but it wasn't what we wanted.
I think you can get a kit now from Best Buy, but I don't know how many's in it. Is it 15 or something?
I've seen that too, I thought it was 15.
Yeah.
Ours was only like $15.99 a piece for the viewer. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
We
the
beat
expense
ours,
is
yeah.
the iPods and the router, but, so we're just, I set them up all last week just to get them going.
How much are iPods now though?
I think they're 200, 199.
Yeah.
The kits from Best Buy they're good, and we basically copied what it is. But if you put it together yourself, like the set of 30 from Best Buy is like $10,000, and we put ours together for about $6,500. So you can cut the price down. I mean, just like anything else, you do it yourself versus having somebody else do it for you. So, but it was a significant amount of difference, and the cost is associated with if you have 15 of them, then it's going to be significantly less, because each of the student devices is going to be roughly $220 or so.
My coworker just said US Cellular will donate 25. I don't know if that's true. 25 devices.
Well, that would be very much worth looking into.
But yeah, I don't know where she heard it or if it's true, because it was just a short message when I said I was in this session, but
What was that again? That US Cellular what?
we'll donate 25 if you're like in the area. But I have no idea if it's true or where she heard it, or I'm not saying she's lying, I just don't know where it came from. But totally worth looking in, like, what's it gonna hurt if they say no? Out of this thing.
One of the other things that was suggested too was, we've used the iPods, but like the Best Buy, they have a phone that they use. Again, it's a similar device and things. We had decided, one, it's a little bit cheaper to use the iPods versus a phone, and in 5 years from now, the iPod is still relatively supported with things, and sometimes for whatever reason the phones kind of get out of their turnovers a little bit more. Plus it seemed like there was a lot of features that the phone has that you'd never use, so why mess with it? So that was some of our thinking behind going with an iPod. Brain idea just came and went.
Well, we went with an iPod because not all kids in the middle school have phones. Most of them do, but not all,
So
or smartphones.
one of the suggestions was, you know, well, geez, you know, everybody's got an old phone or whatever, you know, hey, would you donate it, or, you know, could you get donations of things, you know, parents maybe not wanting their old whatever. And even though that sounds really good, that was another route that we decided not to go down, just because it takes a little bit to find the right combination between your device and the viewer that you have, because of the focal length and the different things. So it does take a little bit just to get it. And then also the connectivity thing is important, especially when you're leading that expedition. Now there was a new update over the summer, I think it was, where at least on the Android side of things with Google, that you can take your own expedition, so it doesn't have to be teacher-led. We haven't done a ton of that or dove into that too deep, but because that connectivity and you're going off of that teacher device, sometimes things don't work perfectly, and when you have all the same devices, it's a little bit easier to troubleshoot versus you've got kind of a hodgepodge of 5 or 6 different devices that just might cause some connectivity components too. So just some things to think about, especially if you're looking at maybe getting some donations or some things. The uniformity of devices helps with that troubleshooting piece.
Well, we have a couple minutes left. Do you have something? Did I interrupt you?
No, I was gonna see if you guys want, you can come check out our setup, or you can go. Thank you guys very